root is scarcity. What if I fail as a leader? What if I hire incorrectly? Or what if we fucking run out of money? It's generally scarcity with regards to finances, because we've all been broke or got our ass kicked on the way up. And to make the investment in your first six-figure employee, if you're trying to hire A players, you're going to have to invest in A players. And it is hard for these guys to have a level of trust in themselves to hire well and lead well while shelling out a significant investment in their people.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Habitual Growth Podcast. I've got a good friend of mine in the studio today. So let me introduce you to Mr. Jeff Smith, who is the founder of the Tactical Empire. And he helps hundreds of 6- and 7-figure business owners build cash flow wealth while reclaiming their time and freedom. He's a full-time RVer with his family and 4 kids, and he goes into the public and he builds a proving message every single day about being able to provide optionality, income, and do the things that you love. He teaches men this proven system to escape that rat race, which we're all a part of. And Jeff, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you to just give the people a little bit more of a background about who you are and what you're doing with the Tactical Empire.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it, Nathan. This is going to be awesome. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, the Tactical Empire, it is a passion project of mine, if you will. I've been in business consulting for about 15 years, and I've built other masterminds. But what I really like doing is digging in and working one-on-one with business owners to help them make more money and recapture their time so they can spend time with their family and do things that are important to them. Being great husbands, great fathers, and while making a lot of money is our mission ultimately.
Yeah, and I don't think you let anything slip through the cracks, which I think is really cool. And one of the main I guess items that I really respect you for and what you're doing is you live this every day. Like you go out there and prove to people that you can do it versus trying to sell just a course online, get people to buy into a $99 funnel, and they don't really teach them anything. You actually go out there and prove this model time and time again, which is unique in itself. But you say something in Tactical Empire, which I really like, which is having options in your life, really focusing on that optionality. How is that different than just making money? Because a lot of people get into business, a lot of people look at things other people are doing on the internet or even in their own life, and they just focus on the monetary aspect. But what does that optionality in your life mean to you?
Well, for me, it's always meant that because I believe people change and evolve every 2 or 3 years with technology and everything that we have now. So like what you want to be doing now is not what you want to be doing when you're 35 or whatever age you are, or 10 years from now. And like, so I think it's important to understand that, accept it, and build for it. Because when we all went into business in our 20s and we were super hungry and like we were willing to quote unquote grind, which is a term I hate, we were willing to do anything, whatever it took for 60, 80 hours a week if we sacrificed everything along the way. But those seasons change. You get married, you have kids, and like I'm huge on the window that you have with your children. Like your kids will never be today years old again is a mantra that I live by. And my kids are 6 to 13 at this point in time. But what I realized early on, our oldest child, probably for her first 7 years, I was stuck in that cycle of just trying to build my business, running into roadblocks, and really singularly focused on making sure that like when I get to this point, then I'll be able to spend all my time with my kids or whatever. And what you realize as you get a little older and a little more experienced is that you never reach that finish line, that point. There's never that moment in time, and you can't recapture those years with your kids ever again, or those experiences. And so you need to reframe like your mindset for one thing, but like also you need to kind of restructure what you're building in order to make sure that it's in alignment with the life you're trying to create. Because everybody gets so excited and seduced by these big numbers. Like I'm going to roll this up and exit in 3 to 5 years. And no matter what I do, I'm going to eat shit along the way, no matter what, burn my whole family up. And you turn around and you do an exit and there's no one there to celebrate with you. And like, I've just been way too close to living that I don't want that for anyone else. And so to your point, we don't sell get rich quick schemes. We don't sell like overnight fixes. Like our plan, the 7 levels of financial freedom, is a plan that takes 2 to 7 years to execute on. And ultimately, what we're doing is we're building a foundation of capital controls so that your money that you're still out earning big money, and we're going to help with growing that side of things. But then also we're going to set a system up that grows alongside of you so that you're making money outside of your business as well and increasing your overall income, but also have the ability to buy your time back if you choose to.
Yeah.
Like, and kind of coming in, structuring your business so that you're increasing revenues and profits, and you're also controlling your schedule, and you're getting time back to do the things that are important to you with the people that are important to you.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And was that when you figured this out, like success versus maybe freedom, when you were focused on those two things, was it the fact that you got married and started having kids? Was it did you get to a point where you just realized I'm not enjoying my life as much as I should be? Life is short. I mean, what were some of those things that were going through your head as you kind of made that transition? Because I do the same thing, right? I'm in my early 40s. I'm looking at my young kids growing up. I know they're never going to be the same age, and it actually takes a lot, specifically for engineer or for entrepreneurs, to slow down, right? To be, I'm appreciative. I'm going to be present in this moment. What was that like for you?
Realization that like because I did some things, right? Like I've acquired $25 million of real estate. I came from special operations in the military. I worked for a Fortune 50 company for 18 years. I've
Mhm.
done things that on paper would tell you that I was successful, right? But like I wasn't creating the life and the level of happiness within my home that I anticipated some of these financial and business wins would bring. And the realization it was that there was this constant friction between like the life I thought I wanted and the life I was like hell bent on creating. And I was down the path, quite frankly. I mean, we had stress in our marriage. Our kids weren't like I wasn't being the dad I wanted to be, and like my life was not structured in a way that was integrated to serve all the things that were important to me.
Yeah, and I know you work primarily with men with the Tactical Empire, which men, you know, for the most part in traditional households are meant and want to be, quite frankly, the breadwinner of the family. You know, it's a give and take relationship these days, but primarily men are those drivers. How much of the financial pressure is self-inflicted? Like Ed Milet has a quote that I use all the time, which is stress is self-inflicted. And I oftentimes use that for other aspects of my life where I even think about money. Like, how much is this lifestyle that I'm trying to force into reality important to me versus just making sure like the family is taken care of, there's food on the table, there's a roof over the head, and we can go out and enjoy this financial freedom that we have.
Well, from a production standpoint, I think we're hardwired to produce. And I don't think that certain societal introductions of like dual income households and things like that changed the primal wiring behind that. I
Agree.
mean, we're designed to provide. And I would argue that with anybody, I think it brings a lack of fulfillment if you back off that. And so, how do you integrate it into like what you're chasing while
Mhm.
serving those people that are very important to you? And so, that's a tough question, but I totally understand where you're going with it. But like most of us are wired to like it's never enough, right? And so you reach some of these milestones, you reach $1 million a year or whatever, and you're like, man, that didn't feel like much. And that was the thing you were chasing. It was so hard to get there, and you thought that would solve all your problems. You got there and it was gone in 30 minutes. It didn't feel like what you thought it was going to feel like. And so having done that and achieved and done some things and had experiences, I just realized that like this is an infinite game. And so you have to wire your mind and you have to structure your work in understanding that. And so like how do you serve all the things that are important to you? And a lot of it is inefficiencies.
Mhm.
So it's inefficiencies with your time management, but it's also inefficiencies with like your capital controls and your money flow. Like most people are paying way more in taxes than they need to be. And so like part of what we teach and show people how to do is like using their income and their tax liabilities to buy assets or real estate and or businesses and using those to lower your tax obligation. And then you've got additional assets as opposed to a big tax bill. And so it just starts stacking on itself while you're trying to build the primary thing.
Mhm.
And so there's just levels of efficiency that I actually learned it all through modeling and hiring coaches and being part of like personal development programs. And because I went out and sought all the people that were doing things, because I'm like, I am just hardworking, blue collar bull in a china shop. And that's
Mhm.
all I know.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's totally inefficient because I'm working harder than these people that are way ahead of me. And so there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better understanding. So I'm a big seeker of education. There's so many financial tools that are available to everyone that nobody knows about. And so they don't implement them in their lives, but when implemented in their lives, they think they're only available to like a certain segment of the population as well. So, like infinite banking is a prime example of that. We use high early cash value life insurance to build family bank, and that one tool will change your entire life if you learn nothing else in your life. But it's not taught in schools. It's not widely marketed. It's got a very low commission rate, is the reason that nobody really learns or knows about it.
Okay.
And so, I mean, that's just a simple concept we teach before anything else. It's a structural foundational piece of your financial like house that you're building, if you will.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
so,
I want to. Oh, go ahead.
no, you're fine.
I was just gonna say, I love that, and we're definitely gonna get into some of those nuances here in a little bit. I'm curious when people come to you, like they become part your client base, are most people actually searching out optionality, or are they really looking to just relieve some of the pressure, primarily financial or even relationships, right? Because I feel like most people, as we've already talked about, kind of get into entrepreneurship. They're chasing that monetary thing. Me, similar to what you just said, like hardworking, blue collar, get into it, outworking from our perspective other people in the game. But that's also usually because we're trying to relieve the financial pressure to set our families up for the future. So, how much of your clients really face that same dilemma versus just really trying to focus on options and opportunities?
They don't know about options and they can't see them through the weeds. So, like, that's where I come in as a third party and I'm like, hey, you tell me what you want your vision of your life to be. And then from my perspective, I see what we can build with the pieces in place. Which, like, paint by numbers direction would you like to go with this? So, the main reason people come to me is because like they feel a little stuck or like it's harder than it should be. I feel like
Mhm.
at this phase in business, it's harder than this should be. I've been in business 10 years. We've had the same revenue for the last 3 years. Something's fucking wrong. Or, or like I'm killing it financially. I'm where I want to be financially, but I've built myself this cage of a business that I can't get out of. And I am the catalyst of all of the movement. And so I can't leave the country for a month with my family and enjoy it because when I come back, I'm going to have to pick up all the pieces and we may not make as much money during that time, or we won't make as much money without me being the conduit to making all that happen. And so when I talk optionality, it's like, how do you spend your time? And then what is the dream business you're building and what role do you want in that business?
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more because I'm curious on the unintentional cage that is created by a lot of people, right? I think most entrepreneurs to some degree are aware of like, hey, if I am the roadblock, I'm the bottleneck in my own business, right? The business can't run without me. And you gave a perfect example there of, hey, we want to take the family and we want to go overseas or leave the country for a month, but that's going to be detrimental to my business. So how do your clients that you work with, what do you typically see for these unintentional traps that they set for themselves because they're not aware of how to structure their life properly?
It's usually one of two things. It's either an ego thing because they think they're the only ones that can do XYZ roles within their business. And so they need someone to come in and be straight with them and direct. Like that's my approach and my style. I'm like, if you fucking want these things, this is what's necessary to do. We have to let go of these things. Or number two, it's they refuse to develop the leadership skills necessary to properly lead an organization that allows them to oversee it and kind of stay in their lane and not cut everybody else off at the knees. Because
Mhm.
generally what these guys have done is they're founders usually, and they built the thing from the ground up.
Yeah.
And so to give off responsibility and control is hard. And also, like when you see diminishing results that aren't the results you perceive you could produce, it creates friction, right? Or they're letting their staff or their team members throw a bunch of shit back on their plate and say, "Hey, like that is my role, but you're better at doing it." And then you just gladly accept it. And next
Yeah.
thing you do, you're wearing like 13 hats again 10 years into business. And you had been scaling and trying to get those off your plate and you're still paying all these people, but you're doing 50% of their job for them because of trust issues, leadership issues, improper hires. I mean, you name it, it covers the gamut.
Yeah. Yeah, let's pull on that a little bit more because I'm always curious about identity shifts and being an owner versus an employee, being an owner versus an investor. Those are very different things. And oftentimes, right, you come up in the game, you start a business, you're an entrepreneur, even you take on a lot of responsibilities, you're starting to build your skill sets. And people like that power. But at some point, most people realize, hey, if I'm going to continue to scale this way, if I'm going to find this financial freedom that I really want, or even just the freedom of my time, I've got to be doing things differently. What typically do you see? You mentioned ego. What typically do you see is the hardest part for some of these identity shifts for the clients that you work with?
It's generally scarcity with regards to finances because we've all been broke or got our ass kicked on the way up. And like to make the investment in your
Yeah.
first six-figure employee, like that you're if you're trying to hire A players, you're going to have to invest in A players, right? And so it is hard for these guys to have a level of trust in themselves to hire well and lead well while shelling out a significant investment in their people. And
Hmm.
so but at the end of the day the root is scarcity. Like what if I fail as a leader? What if I hire incorrectly? Or what if we fucking run out of money?
How did you personally work like overcome that? I know you're kind of the tip of the spear, if you will. You've got the tactical empire, you're coaching people on this, but what were some of the things that you had to maybe change your own perspective on or rethink what money actually meant to you or investing meant to you?
Oh, man, that is a great question. It's been so long, I don't know, but I would say that the things that I harp on or identify very quickly is business owners that are, it's language for one. The language that you use is super important because I can tell in 5 minutes how you're wired as a business owner. So if
Mhm,
you speak about things as investments versus, or excuse me, if you speak about things as expenses versus investments,
mhm.
especially when it regards to people or marketing, like those are investments in your business. And so
Yep.
if your mindset, but when you have a small budget, those naturally like feel like expenses. And it's until you lead well and you hire well and you make strategic decisions well that you trust yourself to that those can actually become investments. Because if you hire someone to work for you and you're investing in your people, right, they should have a return on investment that is, it depends on what industry you're in, but maybe a multiple of 2.5, 3.5. Like if you're in a service based business, a plumbing or electrical company, like we know every van we add adds X amount of revenue. Every
Yep.
truck we add to the route adds X amount of revenue. Those are investments, not expenses. And so if you come to me and you pucker about a $40,000 van with a wrap and whatever comes to it, and I tell you that'll produce $400,000 of revenue at 40% profit, like, and you still can't comprehend it, like we have some work to do.
Yeah, those identity shifts are really difficult, and I fight these all the time. I talk about this on the podcast. It's really interesting, and the reason I like the question that I asked you is, I come from a background of like, we never threw anything away as a kid, right? We just hoarded, hoarded, hoarded. And that was because, we didn't want the additional expenses. It's a very different time right now where, as a consumer, you can get anything anywhere pretty much and have it delivered wherever you are. Amazon, now you've got Starlink, you can travel the world, get the internet, all that stuff. But it's very hard to break out that identity. And a lot of business owners just think like, I have to take this on because I don't want to spend the money, and they actually don't shift that perspective, like you're saying, to the investment side of things.
There's also a fear factor in like most people buy themselves a job, and that's what they're doing. They're escaping the 9 to 5 to become an entrepreneur, but they're not really entrepreneurs. They just bought themselves a job. Then they become an owner operator, if you will, or like there's just levels to it. And as you start running teams, you're owning a business at that point, and you're just an independent business owner. And then the next level would be entrepreneur, where you're trying to like change an industry or through innovation of what you're
Mhm.
doing. And so I think there's a lot of fear associated with bringing on hires. And also, like, most people don't, like, as simple as it sounds, most people don't want to spend the money to hire the next person if they don't know what they're going to do with their time. Like, that is crippling fear for business owners. If I tell you, like, what do you do, Nathan, with your time? And you're like, I do sales. And I'm like, okay. And how much time does that take of your day? Like, and you're like, whatever. 40 hours a week. Okay. Like, are you the best at it? Well, I'm okay at it. Like, do you like it? No, I hate it. Okay. Let's hire a sales guy. And you're like, what does a sales guy cost? And whatever, 40K base and commission 10% of gross or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's neither here nor there. But like somewhere along that process, I'm going to have to talk you off a ledge because you're hit in the face like a sledgehammer with the fact that you're about to regain 40 hours of your week. Nathan, as a business owner that hasn't been through that yet, is scared to death on what he's going to spend his 40 hours on. It sounds like an expense and a waste of time and money because you don't know what you're going to do with your time.
Is that one of the reasons why, and I would associate this with mostly men, but why men sometimes fail in other areas of life while succeeding in others, building wealth. I've hit my financial goal, but my family is really suffering. Or, hey, I'm really focused on the family, but my revenue hasn't grown at all, and I just know there's something broken here. Is there is there a reason, like a primary example of why we like men lose focus in particularly around all areas, all aspects of their life to be able to continue to move them forward? Is it time bound? Is it energy? Is it resource?
I think it's structure more than anything because like we have a 4F structure, which is family, fitness, freedom, and finances. And within those four, you build
Mhm.
your habits to throughout those four so that you're touching each of the areas of your life that are important to you on a regular basis. Because
Yeah.
I think where we lose focus, for me, here's an example. The reason that my family got completely off track is because I told a story to myself that I was doing this all for my family. I was growing our finances and our businesses all for my family. So the other things be damned, if you will. Not that I was not like trying to serve those other areas, but I had told myself a story. As long as I focus here and win big here, then
Mhm.
I can pick up all the pieces from all these other things. And at that point in time, my life was not integrated. But what I was doing is I was lying to myself, and I was really being kind of a pussy, if you will. Sorry for my language, but I was really leaning towards where my strengths were. It's
Mhm.
because I hadn't been married before, right? And being married's real hard. I hadn't had kids before, and I had daughters. I have 3 daughters and a son, and so I didn't grow up with a father, so I didn't have an example
Mhm.
for what that looked like. So
Yeah.
what I was doing, like fitness and finances, has always been my thing. Like I grew up playing football my entire life, then went into special operations. Like owned a gym for 12 years. But what I was doing is I was cherry picking and I was
Uh-huh.
leaning on my strengths. I knew business, I knew finances, and I knew fitness. So those got touched every day,
Yeah.
no matter what. But it was because I was not doing the hard work of becoming a great husband, being curious about how to grow in that area, becoming a great dad, being present and deliberately like trying to grow in that area, learn things about my kids, learn nuances of how to be a good parent. And instead, I was defaulting to what's easy. And I think men do that constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree with that, and I love the 4 Fs. I've got a question loaded up here for us to talk through on that, but that perspective is really helpful because I think the perception is, I'm gonna get into a relationship and it's gonna be so easy and we're gonna get along and be best friends and, life, is rainbows and four-leaf clovers and all that those wonderful things. Being a parent is hard. Nobody can teach you that. Being in a relationship is hard. Running a business is hard. Yeah, I know we run in the same circle, so I always use Andy Frisella's quote of
Yep.
like, there's no growth in the comfort zone. And I think really life changed for me when I took the perspective of like, everything is going to be hard, right? It's just a matter of what you're going to put your attention into. So with the 4 Fs kind of starting out, you had the things that were really easy for you, the fitness aspect of it. What does like a perfect week look like when you're balancing the 4 Fs in the right capacity?
Well, I really just distill them down into how can I touch these areas? Because again, what I learned through trying to chase really big targets at the detriment of everything else
Mm.
was the fact that like the small things add up over time,
Mhm.
especially with your kids. Like I used to try to do these like grandiose time spent with my kids and then I would disappear and shut down. I'd be in my office, do whatever. We're going to Disney in 3 months. Don't worry about it. And
Yeah.
like kids don't need you like that. They need you on a daily, regular basis. And so, like, from a family perspective, like simple, these are guardrails too. They act as guardrails so that you don't deviate for periods of time. Because what I found when I wasn't achieving what I wanted to do, I was having these ups and downs where I would lull for weeks at a time, maybe months at a time. I'd be off track on
Mm.
things. And so these things are designed to be small, small touches that keep you engaged with your family, keep you engaged with your kids, keep you engaged with your wife. You're communicating on a regular basis, deliberately. You're having date night on a weekly basis. Like just simple shit. It's not complicated stuff. And fitness, it could be whatever you want. Go for a walk for 45 minutes. Like just touch it on a regular basis because then you're servicing everything and then your life becomes integrated. So what you say is important to you is actually being followed up with these micro actions on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so you talked about a weekly cadence. Like I just do those things on a regular basis with deliberate project time spent in moving my business forward. So like I don't work out first thing in the morning. I work out later in the morning, like at 11 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. I work out or I do my work first thing in the morning. When we
Mm.
had a house, I was like, I did this religiously and like because I could go get away and be in my office, and I would wake up at whatever time was necessary, 3 or 4 in the morning, and I would work until like 8 o'clock, and I would do all of my project work and critical tasks to move things forward, and I would do more than two. I would do a lot of them, and so but by 8 o'clock in the morning, I was kind of done. I got to do whatever I wanted from an like then it was reactionary time though. And most business owners miss that period of time. They show up straight to reactionary time.
Yes.
And I think that energy management is one of the most important and overlooked things. And what I mean by that is when are you highest energy? When are you most mentally acute? And when can you produce the most like level of focus? And you have to understand that about yourself. For me, it's the morning. So I have to use my mornings to do that. I can't like there was a period of time I tried to go to the gym at like 4 or 5 in the morning and then I'd sauna and I'd do all this other shit. And like it was just such a waste of time,
Yeah.
such a waste of time because that was my peak state, and I was using it all at the gym,
Yep.
and so that was not a productive use of my time for my business, my employees, or anyone around me.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm actually going through that right now. It's like I usually drop my daughter off in the morning and then I go to the gym and then I start to get in that reactionary mode. And lately I've been actually trying to flip that where I'm working out in the afternoon to give myself a little bit of an energy boost. I can't necessarily, unless I get up like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, work out early because I've got 3 kids, 7 and under. They all have to go to school. So mornings aren't necessarily always the smoothest, but that's part of the game. And so I'm curious if you can share, maybe elaborate a little bit more on how you've personally been able to balance your own life in this capacity. How much is it, quote unquote, balance versus something more dynamic, like you said, like energy conservation or resource conservation? How do you work through what needs? Everything has a touch point, but how do you know really where to spend maybe more of your energy or more of your time without being truly reactionary?
I think it's just being gracious to yourself for one thing. And what I mean by that, I'll come back to. Hold on. But it's also like auditing constantly. Like
Mhm.
what's working, what's not working. And like you have to do that on a regular basis. And people don't do that. Like we have a tendency to be like, this is what I'm doing. This is the structure and schedule I'm sticking to. And like if I didn't do it, like something's wrong with me, or I'm undisciplined, or I'm a piece of shit, or whatever it is. Like the variety of things you throw at yourself, right? And you're like, why can't I do this? And like I think it's better to flow like water, like roll with it and
Mhm.
understand those things about you and schedule accordingly. And so like that's why I always talk about integration. You have to live with intentionality. So like what's important to you, your decisions have to be intentional. And
Mhm.
so like the next things on your to-do list or your project list need to be intentional and designed. And then you have to schedule the time appropriately within your calendar to make those things happen. And then you have
Mhm.
to say like whatever. This Sunday, I'm going to sit down. What worked? What didn't work? What didn't work was going to the gym at 4 in the fucking morning because I did it until 7 and then I was tired at 7. And
Yeah.
like, so I came home at 8 and then I had like more of an energy lull. Like, you just have to understand those things and then adjust around them. We get so dogmatic about who we need to be as far as like I'm the most disciplined man in the world and this is why. And like especially in some of the circles that have gotten like way out over their skis of like alpha male shit. And like I just don't. I'm okay with that. Like I'm a very masculine guy, but I'm not like gonna run a boot camp at my fucking in the tactical empire, and I'm not gonna scream at people and things like
Yeah.
that because like I mean I've done some things, but I don't need to. I don't need to operate my life on that level. And like I'm very disciplined. I do what I need to do, but I'm also willing to say that there's seasons of life. My kids are and they're all different ages. They have all different needs. So my schedule shifts like somewhat frequently with
Yeah.
regards to what I can do. And so I just think people need to understand that and really audit what they're doing. Is this working or is this not working? Because oftentimes they blame other things. Like I haven't seen growth in my business and I can't pinpoint why. And it's because you go to your lake house on fucking Wednesday night and you don't come back until Monday at noon.
Yeah.
If you only work 37% of the week, you're probably going to get diminishing returns.
Yeah. How much is building a great life is discipline versus something else? Like discipline is always good. You mentioned critical tasks. Obviously, you're doing something around the power list. You know, habitual growth. We have our essential action items. Same
Yep.
concept. And we have a lot of people in the app that are just doing their disciplinary things, right? Discipline is in a good thing, saying that in a positive light of like, hey, I'm following my plan. But how much is it actually of building a life that you want discipline versus something else? And if it's something else, what is that?
I think it's constantly being curious on pushing your edges of expansion. Like if I'm doing something and it's good enough, like or it's become a habit to where I don't need to check it anymore. Like I'm curious about the next version of me that I can pursue, whether it's education, whether it's fitness endeavors or exercise stuff, whether it's trying to get to a level 10 marriage with my wife. Like what does that look like to us and how can we pursue that? I don't know if that answers your question specifically, but like for me, like it's just a growth mindset. Like I'm not wired to stay the same. Like I don't know what that even looks like. Like if I had to do Groundhog Day over and over again, I don't think we push the limits of our human experience. And so like I think it's the pursuit of like where your edges are. And you should always be challenging those to figure out like what's the next thing that you can accomplish or what's the next level of growth that you can entertain.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, that's a perfect answer. I love how you actually responded to that about the fringe areas because I think that is core. Discipline, yes. I think in really kind of maybe said in your terms with Tactical Empire is there has to be a strategy behind it. You use a lot of intentionality there as well. That's one of our taglines at Habitual Growth is live with intent for that reason. You have to be intentful about your relationships. You have to be intentful with your kids. You have to be intentful with your experiences. And I don't think there's any shortage of that, but there is oftentimes maybe it's not just about the discipline. You have to have your strategy to be able to act on it and then be disciplined in the execution of that strategy.
Absolutely.
How much of building wealth is actually about strategy then? Because a lot, again, going back to how we started out the interview, it is, building wealth obviously takes time. You can work hard, you can use the hustle culture, whatever, but there has to be a strategy behind it. So, how much of that do you actually coach your clients on?
My philosophy on coaching is really just guiding you to what it is that you in fact want. Like I don't impress my philosophy on them with regards to business, with regards to the size their business needs to be,
Mm.
with regards to like what wealthy means to them or
Mhm.
how much is a lot of money. Like it's really just asking those questions to determine where you want to get. Like if your goal is to be a billionaire and my goal is to be 100 millionaire, like those are different roadmaps,
Mhm.
but those are still valuable, admirable goals, but like the tools we use to get there are going to be vastly different, and the sacrifices necessary to get there are going to be vastly different. You asked specifically about like wealth creation and is that strategy? I don't think it's as much strategy as it is systems and just working the system for a period of time without deviating.
Mhm.
That now you can add flavors to your system. You can learn new things and inject new, we use cost segregation studies on all of our properties. We haven't always done that, but what that does is it lowers your tax liability by it's accelerated depreciation on real estate assets. And
Yep.
so what you can do is if you're W-2 income or if you're a business owner that makes a lot of that has a lot of taxable income, you can go buy assets with that money. And like I spoke to earlier, I believe you can buy assets and lower your tax obligation. And then you're sitting there with Airbnbs and rental
Yep.
properties and apartments and things like that, as
Yeah.
opposed to just a big tax liability.
How much I think when people get into and they start to hear real estate, and as we talked about kind of in your bio and you've alluded to, you do 25 plus million in real estate. Some of these systems can be cost segging, as an example. A lot of people may not know about that. It can get really complex, but when people think about real estate versus cash flow investing, and it may sound simple from go, is it a slow process or is it a fast process in terms of the learning curve or actually building that wealth and accumulating it over time?
Through real estate, it does take some time because like you have to, it depends on the asset class you go into realistically. I mean, if you're going to buy a portfolio of single family homes and you just want to be in it like passively, if you will, and you just want something that's not complicated or complex, like single family homes will take a while until they are valuable to you. I mean, that's a game that's like 5 to 20 years you're looking at on building that because each home you buy, depending on the market conditions at the time and how you buy I mean, it's only going to kick off 250 to $600 a month per door, and so it's a slow game there. But you can accelerate it very quickly. Now, if you go buy an apartment complex and you've got the capital to do that, you're buying that at a cap rate. If you're buying so you know the NOI going in, which is net operating income. So you know how much money that's going to pay you. So if you go out and get a $5 million apartment complex that's got an NOI of 400 grand, you know you're going to be pulling down 35,000, 33,000 a month on that free and clear. So
Mhm.
it just depends. I mean, but real estate is not the only direction we take. We have passive funds for people, and we also acquire businesses and scale their talents as well. So like we do creative capital stacks and things like that to get you into businesses. So if you're a great operator, like being a business operator may be definitely buying a business has greater ROI than buying real estate. There's no
Mhm.
question about it, but it comes with its series of headaches that are different.
Mhm. And that's
So
what you mean by incorporating the talent in there for people, of looking at who they are as an individual, what type of life they want, what their strategy is, where they wanna go.
but most importantly, like what do you want?
Yeah.
Like what do you want? Because like just because you see real estate,
Mhm.
people have this obsession with real estate investing because they
Exactly.
see it and it's sexy and they think that's what they should be doing. But ultimately, there's a myriad of headaches that comes with anything.
Mhm.
And so, like if let's use an example, if you're a plumber and you run a plumbing business and you've got a team of a few guys and you're doing a couple $1 million a year and you're great at that, then I would be stupid to tell you to go buy a bunch of single family homes because that's what I did. Like when you're a great plumber, I'm going to say, do you have an appetite for absorbing more plumbing companies? Because
Mhm.
that's like, if we go buy another plumbing company, fuck, you'll make another $500,000. Like, how many rental properties is it going to take you to make another 500,000? And that's your skill and that's your talent. So like, let's go swallow up these guys getting out of business that are trying to exit, that are 70 years old,
Mhm.
and broaden your region and bring in the teams and the assets that they have with them already. So there's just like it's really about getting super clear on what you want. Like most people are so busy trying to stay alive and take care of all the shit that they've got right in front of them that they never take 2 seconds to breathe, to get any space to say, where do I actually want to go? And what
Mhm.
does that look like? And what does it take to get there? Like if you want a $20 million home, there's some things that go into having a $20 million home. What is your net worth? What should your net worth be to have a primary residence that's $20 million? And then what does that type of mortgage payment look like? And what kind of vehicles, investment vehicles, does it take behind that to support something like that?
Where do people I should like where you're going with that. Where do people maybe lie to themselves as they're thinking about certain things? Is it just oftentimes they don't know, so they're just naive and they just say, pick an arbitrary number. I want a $20 million house, or, real estate looks sexy because I see all these people on the internet talking about it. So I want to go own 10 Airbnbs. But where's that almost like internal lie that a lot of people tell themselves that they need to get over before they can actually create the structure and the roadmap to get to where they want to go?
Well, I think some of it is just watching like everybody else's highlight reels, and they just want, like we talked about real estate. Everybody just wants to do real estate because people show you that they made millions in real estate or whatever, right? And so, like, but really, is that the right path for you? I've talked to for every person that you talk to that's winning in real estate, you'll talk to 10 people who have bought rental properties and fucking hated them and
Mhm.
like got the toilet call at Christmas Eve at 10 o'clock at night type thing. And then their wife is just like out. She's like, if you buy another piece of property, we are divorced.
Yeah.
And so, like, for every winner, there's 10 horror stories that you don't hear about. And so, like, I think people try to just attach themselves to other people's journeys as opposed to doing the deep work on, like, what their journey actually looks like or
Mhm.
should look like.
Would you say that that's a truth, like the truth about success that most people don't realize until it's too late? Like, hey, real estate looks sexy. I want to get into it. And now I'm the person that is doing all the plumbing, the electrical work, or I'm upside down on a monthly basis because the rents aren't coming in or the tenants aren't, paying on time, whatever it is. Is that like one of the truths that you see towards success that most people they need to understand before they can actually start to put together a wealth creating strategy?
Really, it's just about what investment vehicle is right for you, because some people are building their business. Like I'm talking to business owners, right? So like if you, and most of the guys I talk to, full transparency, they're making 6 figures or more, mid 6 figures, 7 figures personal income. So like their life is, they're established to an extent. Like we're fixing other problems, higher
Yeah.
level problems. We're not starting stuff. And
Yeah.
so for them, it's just be again about like using the phrase building a cage, like
Mhm.
their next move needs to be very strategic, deliberate, and well thought out, as opposed to like, because what we've seen in the past is somebody will have a booming business. We'll use the plumber example. He's killing it. And he decides he wants to run a rental portfolio and he goes out and buys 50 properties. Now he's got phone calls coming out the ass. Even if he's not managing it, there's headaches that come with owning 50 properties.
Mhm.
And so he's distracted over here. His primary business starts to dip because now his employees don't see the same fire from him in growing the business and expanding the business anymore because he's so singularly focused over here that this starts to die. And so really I'm just like the lighthouse or bellwether of like these are the things you need to watch out for as you decide to do what you're like, because there are people who say, hey man, I've got $1 million to invest and I've got some time to be like skin in the game with my time on the deal, right? So like they may take it and say, I want to build a ground up development and I'm going to manage part of the general contracting portion of it. Okay. Do you have the time? Is it going to draw from other areas of your life? Blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yep.
Like now, if you've got a business owner who's maxed out and he's doing 50-hour weeks and running teams and he's making good money, he's not going to be able to do that.
Mhm.
And it's just not a good move for him. Whatever he does needs to be purely passive because we need to start either reinvesting into the business, probably. That's the first thing I would recommend is we're reinvesting in the business to get that hourly time down so he's
Mhm.
not 50 hours a week anymore. But
Mhm.
then if you're going to redirect any of the profits into something else, we need to be like crystal clear and honest with ourselves, like what that asset class needs to do and how much time, mental capacity can it take up
Yeah.
conceivably.
Yeah. Let's pull on that thread. If somebody feels like they are doing well, right? Maybe they are at that six-figure mark, maybe their income is increasing or they're getting there, they see the momentum, but they don't actually feel free. And this is something that I've personally gone through a couple of times. Job transitions, got promoted, found out that I didn't like the promotion. I doing more well on quote unquote paper, but in my life, I feel like I'm just more stressed out, have anxiety, and not where I want to be. What's the first question you think people should be asking themselves if they're in that spot?
I think they need to say, like, where do they want to be in 3 years? Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. And so if you're having the conversation in the mirror that you're miserable, is this worth it? Now, there are times I talk to people that there's a means to an end, right? Like I have some guys that I consult with that are high W-2 earners that don't like their jobs.
Mhm.
And so we're like, okay, well, don't quit your fucking job. That's number one. Like let's use that income to fund because you're not going to go out and open a business and make $500,000 next year. That's just unrealistic. Now, if
Yeah.
you've got a passion project we can dig into down the road that we can bridge the gap to, maybe. But like when I said I'm realistic and direct, I'm like, you're absolutely not quitting that job. I mean, if you want to, great, but like that is going to cut you off and set you back 10 years what of production that you could have got together. And so then we're going to look for vehicles and outlets that they could just plow money in. Can they cut their lifestyle a little bit? Could you save 200,000 or $250,000 a year? Because like most people are not set up in that position where they could be plowing a quarter mil into an investment strategy. And if
Yep.
they can, where are you at in 4 years? You've got $1 million of principal you've thrown in there. And like,
Mhm.
what is that thing producing on a regular basis? Like if it's 10%, you've got 6 figures of residual income coming down from that.
Yep.
So like but when you do stuff like that and then you put a plan into place and the roadmap's there, it makes going to that job much easier because you know that like this isn't Groundhog Day.
Mhm.
Because like what you're talking about is a situation where they feel like they have no options. They feel like this is my life now. And they're like, that $10,000 raise was not worth it because it pencils on my paycheck at 660 bucks a month or something,
Mhm.
or a paycheck. And that was it.
Well, that's why I ask about, the question of what you would ask somebody. I'm assuming it's part of your 7 levels of financial success and
Yep.
freedom because it's the hard truths that I think you and I have had to learn as we've gone through the entrepreneurship journey. We've both worked in corporate America or for larger corporations. You take the leap and like you said, you're not going to go out and make a 500,000 tomorrow, right? Or even probably that year. It takes a couple of years to build up your skill sets, to build up the business, to do all the things that go on the back end of that. But the scarcity piece that you said in the middle was a major hurdle for me, right? Having to realize there are so many opportunities out there. There's so many people to connect with. There's so many people that want to help. There's so many different ways to make money. There's different capital stacks. There's different borrowing mechanisms. And so giving people the ability to say, hey, these are out there, go explore. Don't quit your W-2 job. Even if you're miserable, spend 6 months doing your job, but then working on something else that gives you a runway to start building towards this life that you want. I don't know if any of that resonates, but as you were kind of responding, that's what I was thinking about in my own personal journey, and how I now have, like, the hard truth for me was just realize like everything's going to take 3 years minimum. Right. And so what can I start building now that gets me to at least a much better point that I'm enjoying life in 3 years?
That's a great perspective to have. Most people underestimate what they can get done in 3 years and overestimate what they can get done in 6 months, right? And
Yeah.
so, and we have such a problem with focus. So, like, if you use the money analogy, the reason most people don't have the level of wealth that they want to achieve is because they break the compounding effect constantly of compounding interest.
Mm.
So they save, save, save. I was guilty of this when I first went into real estate. I would save, save, save. I would go buy a rental property. So I'd save $30,000 and go buy a rental property for $150,000. And I'd use my own money. And this is not the way to do it, by the way, guys. Just caveat: do not invest like this. And I would use my own $30,000. I would get one rent house, and then I would go back to saving. But what I did was I broke the compounding effect of that $30,000. So it went back to zero. Then it got planted as equity in that property. Now, will it grow in that property? It'll grow in that property, but there's smarter ways to utilize that money to
Mm.
where you could put it in an asset now, then you could pull out a loan against it that you continue to control it. And you can use that capital to acquire the home and then use the home to pay back the loan at a positive interest rate. And you're
Mm.
making money two ways with that same dollar. So
Yeah.
there's more sophisticated ways to do it. But like what again, and I think another huge problem, and it's not so much a problem anymore because most people can't afford houses, but like most people spend way too much money on their primary residence and they dump a huge down payment of capital in there. So if you like back to rich dad, poor dad principles, if you just rewire your brain to anything you want ever, you have to think about, what do I need to go out and buy that
Mm.
will pay for what I want?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and if you can rewire that thought process, it changes the way you look at things.
Well, and it's, you bring up an interesting point because sometimes it's easy for what do I want to say? People that are in like the personal development space, and I'm just using us as the example. There are other obviously avenues where this is true, but I think a lot of people, when they get out of public education, they get into a corporate job, they don't know. The curiosity almost stops. They become just a cog, not realizing, I'm unhappy with my life until it's like too late and I don't have that optionality. And so I always encourage people, hey, we're far enough down the rabbit hole to share the message, to spread the word. Yeah, there's other options that you can do. I just was listening to a podcast on this, to your point around, there's so many homeowners that think you actually have to have 20% down for your first home. And that's just not the case. There's so many other options, but people just don't know that they have to go out and explore and find some of those other avenues maybe to get in, to preserve your capital and do things a slightly different way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. So many people also have dead equity in their homes, like, which is just tons of equity sitting there, especially now with the housing prices have doubled over the last 5 or 6 years. And so most people are sitting on 50% equity and they're not putting it to work for them. And
Hmm.
and so because they don't know what to do, because they just don't have the financial education, and it feels like a risk and blah blah blah, every excuse you could think of. But like the reality is, if you can put that money to work for you today, because I we haven't discussed this, but I'm totally anti qualified programs. Like, I don't like Ks. I don't like, our philosophy is everything that we invest in should pay us next month or next quarter and forever.
Hmm.
And so I want that money to pay me now. So as opposed to like investing your money in a 401k when you can have access to it when you're 62, like I want to manage my money and take control of my entire financial situation right now. And even if it's a lower guaranteed rate of return today, I'm fine with that because it's going to start paying me now and into perpetuity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And we're definitely going to be talking about some of that stuff offline as well. I know I owe you some follow-ups on these things, but I'm just kind of rounding this out, Jeff. I know you've been kind with your time. Two questions for you. One, what's a piece of advice that works for most people, but really breaks down things for highly driven individuals, right? If somebody's tuning into this podcast, whether it's through the Tactical Empire audience or the Habitual Growth Empire, there are like these are ambitious, high achieving professional people. So, what's a piece of advice that you think you would give to people right now who are listening to this about wealth creation?
Specifically about wealth creation, I think it's like you can't have enough education and information. And again, like the path of investments or the path of like business ownership, no one else's journey is your journey. And so like your responsibility is to gain enough knowledge to understand what you're doing and the right path for you. But there's models for everything.
Mm,
Like sometimes people get so caught up in like, well, I'm so far away from that. Like, I don't understand how we could build the bridge
right.
from the version of me now into the version of me that is worth $1 billion or whatever, right? But
Mm,
like, there's models out there, and there's education out there, and there's people out there that are willing to help you. I think the biggest thing coming up that people don't understand is that if you're at a lower level, like whatever, if you're under your first million, like you're a cutthroat like hustler, if you will, again, the term. But like at the higher levels, the more generous and more willing you are to help, that's everywhere. It's that shift from scarcity to abundance. The
mhm,
people that keep ascending and keep going up in the game of life and business and money, generally 99%, there are outliers, but 99% of those people that stay for the long haul that you see for a long period of time, not
mhm,
flash in the pan, right? Those people are very, very abundant and willing to help you. They are so willing to help. They're so willing to share, so willing to give, and you don't sense that on the way up because everybody is trying to kick your ass at the lower levels because of scarcity.
yeah.
So when you're running your first businesses and you're doing 500 a year gross revenue or whatever, your buddy down the street, or not buddy, your competitor down the street that's at the same point in business is trying to steal all your shit and not help you, would never refer you clients, and that's
Yeah.
just small shit. As
Yep.
you ascend, everything opens up. And
Yep.
so you should live like that when you're younger, in my opinion. Younger in
Yeah.
your career is what I'm talking about, not younger like age wise. Like earlier on in your journey, you should just try to maintain abundance throughout because that will pay just exponential dividends because people remember that as you ascend into different levels. And on the flip side, people also remember the assholes, and it doesn't get them very far. And
Yep.
so there will be a door slammed in their face at some level for behaving like that. So,
I couldn't agree more, man. I love that. I'm gonna leave this to you to answer. This is kind of the last question for you in terms of the interview, but like, what? Just taking what you just said, what is like one shift someone could do this week that starts them moving towards real optionality? Whether that's wealth creation, whether that's intentional action, whether that is not being an asshole and trying to help other people. What is that one shift someone can make this week?
man, that is very tough. You could make a million of them. Be nice to people, of course. Help with no expectation of reciprocation or anything in return. Like, I think that's the number one thing people should lead with. If you carry yourself like that on a regular basis, the universe will bless you with countless unexpected, like, wins over and over again. But if you're talking about money, because we've talked a lot about wealth, I would say that, like, paying yourself first is a tired answer, but like sweeping money into an opportunity account so that when you are educated, there is a pot of money to go out and invest. I think would be one of the best things for you to do. So like get used to saving 10% and putting it into something high
Mhm,
yield checking account or savings account for right now. And then
mhm.
when you get more education on where that money should go, then you can talk about asset classes or investing it in different verticals. That or like if you haven't spent any money on yourself and your personal development and education, like the best thing you can do if you have less than $50,000 saved to invest is spend it on yourself. Build skills, build your knowledge base, and ultimately those are things that are provide infinite returns because you're building skills that no one can take away from you. You're building knowledge that you have until the day you die. And if you haven't spent money on yourself and you're investing $5,000 CDs or something stupid, like you're wrong. because you should get an exponential return on investing in yourself. 100%.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I love that answer. I just actually like what you said in the first part, which is like just help somebody out, right? It's amazing that I read something many years ago, and it basically was like there was a guy that was being interviewed, and he was like, "I'll help anybody out if it takes me 5 minutes or less." And so oftentimes people just make a request, "Hey, can I get this introduction?" Or "Hey, can you look at this? Hey, can this person's feeling bad, maybe give them a phone call, make them feel a little bit better." And it's funny because I've really integrated that piece into my life where it's like if it doesn't take me a lot of time and it's not a significant amount of mind share, I will help you out all day long because I believe in karma. I'm a Christian, so I believe in God, and I think the goodness in serving others is there. But like you said, it pays so many dividends just to be nice, just to help other people out. Stick your hand down and pull them up when you are climbing as well. The tide rises all ships, and I think that's very true in business and relationships and everything else that we do in our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Nathan.
Well, I love this, Jeff. Let's leave it here, but this has been an amazing interview. I've learned so much already. Where can the audience find you and get a hold of you if they want to be in touch?
Instagram's probably the best place, honestly. It's real Jeff Smith is who I am. Jeff with a J. I don't know if I need to say that. I've never clarified that before, but I don't know any Jeffs with G's. But real Jeff Smith at Instagram is probably the best place to get a hold of me. I'm on Facebook as well, but you can DM me. I answer all my own stuff. I'm happy to plug you into educational resources. We've got a ton of educational resources we run a free community on School. This is the Tactical Empire community. We've been creating courses for 5 years and they're all out there for free. So there's just tons of knowledge out there that you can access, learn about these infinite banking concept that we talked about. You can learn about how to buy real estate. You can learn about vision casting, all that stuff. We've got tons of educational resources. Couples annual planning is one of our favorite resources that people use that I'm most proud of because I think doing couples annual planning with your wife brings you together like synergistically to where your family operates at a higher level. You guys can go chase real dreams and goals together. And most couples never spend any time doing that. They operate kind of in silos and plan their own goals or whatever. And by no fault of their own, they're kind of like their azimuth is off a little bit, and there's friction in reaching the goal. What could have been done in 2 years if you guys were on the same page now takes 4 years, for example. So it's not the end of the world, but like when you come together, it's like rocket fuel as far as like how fast you can move and how you can make space for each other. It improves your marriage, it improves your bank account and every other area of your life.
Yeah. Well, you're living the dream. So for the audience, thank you for tuning in here. Look up Jeff, follow him on the Tactical Empire, go get some of those courses that he mentioned on School, DM him directly. I mean, this guy is living the dream that a lot of people have, and he's not just doing it for the highlight reel. He's actually doing this on a day-to-day basis. And I can attest to that because he had to hook a Starlink up to get internet for this interview. So, Jeff, thank you again for this time, man. It's been such a pleasure, and I look forward to chatting offline here in a little bit.
Absolutely, Nathan. Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
Of course. Take care, bud.